All right, hey, Michael Ashley here for Center for Digital Archaeology, Sustainable Heritage Network, talking about photogrammetry. So we have here an actually really challenging subject. This is Ben, as in Ben Franklin, and it's an art piece. It's actually incredibly complex as a three-dimensional object, because if you really wanted to get every single nook and cranny of this, you're gonna have to take a pile of photos. So one of the things you want to think about when you're doing photogrammetry is, what is it you're trying to actually do? What's your output? The classic output that people want is what's called an orthophoto, just a three-dimensional photograph that's actually in 2D, something that is flat but you can measure. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that what we want to produce today is a version of this that we can measure. You need a couple of things. First of all, color checker. Now, if this were an archaeological artifact or a cultural heritage site, I would never do what I'm doing here, which is to physically touch the object. But I'm just going to go ahead and place this color checker here in this scene, okay? Next, I have an iPad. Now, on this iPad, I'm using an application called Theodolite Pro. Theodolite Pro is fantastic because it records the time and the precise geolocation. It's actually amazing. And currently, it's telling me that it's got the geolocation down perfectly through magic, as far as I can tell. So I'm going to move back here and just take a photo here of the object. Now I did it, and then I'm going to add a note. So I'm saying, Ben at Renaissance DC, Photogrammetry, and that note has been embedded in this picture. So this is just my little clapboard that I use, and believe it or not, that's all I'm going to use the iPad for. Next up, camera. As I pointed out before, you don't have to use a super fancy camera to do this, but you do need a camera that can shoot camera raw. So little tiny point and shoots, Lumixes, 40 megapixel images, NEX, a couple $100, and you're really good to go. So you want to shoot in camera raw. This is something that I can put in front of the lens in order to record this actually terrible light. Now, it's another thing. You always can't control your lighting. Okay, in this case, we're in a hotel. The lighting is what it is. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to put my camera on manual focus. Turn it on. I'm going to take this guy, put it right here in front of the lens, and just take a picture. Okay. Now I have the scene. It doesn't have to be in focus, and I've recorded the lighting of the scene. Next up, I'm going to make sure I get the color checker in the most representational light here. So I'm going to have it be right here. In fact, that's a little bit better. And I'm going to make sure that I don't block the light. And I'm going to take a relative close-up of the color checker. Then I'm going to move it out of the scene. Now for the fun part while we're outside. Super important. Once you set what's called the lens, you decide the focus of your camera, and you set the overall coverage. You should actually, I usually use tape, and I'll tape my lens, no autofocus, to make sure that the lens doesn't move in any way. So to do that, I'm going to move out here, and I'm going to take a series of pictures across the scene. This is what's called structure from motion. The more I move, the more pictures I do, the better result I'm going to get. So I'm going to start with just moving plainly across the scene, and then you're going to see that I'm going to take some additional oblique angles to complete the series. So I'm looking through my camera, and I'm making sure that I have the entire art piece up to the exit sign and below down to the electrical receptacle. I'm then putting it on manual focus, and I'm going to use an aperture of f8 just to guarantee the focus. Now I'm going to take the series. Now, I would use a monopod normally to do this in this very terrible lighting that we have to work with, but basically, I'm just going to go like this. Now I'm going to start all the way off the scene, take my first picture, and I'm going to move, keep looking, and I'm going to make sure that I have 80% overlap in all of my shots. I can get away with 60, but I'm happier with 80. It's really great to have a second person helping you so you don't fall off a cliff or the escalator. And all the way across. Now that I've done that, I'm going to, believe it or not, because this is a three-dimensional object, I'm going to keep moving around and shoot a series of oblique shots And I'm going to come back around here and do the same thing. Now I'm making sure that the entire scene is in every frame. And that's probably good. Now that covered the horizontal dimension. To really get the whole thing, as I mentioned, if we were going to do a complete three-dimensional model, we'd probably have to take hundreds of pictures to do this. We want to take pictures up here, pictures below, close-ups to get every single angle. But for the purposes of producing a two-dimensional version, this will be perfectly fine. And that's pretty much it.